Hey, hi, it's Manga Mondays, once again, nighttime edition, with me, your host, Manga Mondays guy, the only manga review show that's recorded literally months in advance. It's February right now. I'm recording this in February. And I'm going to review the first two volumes of Immortal Hounds. This is a manga that I picked up just on, like, cover art. Like, I saw cute girl with guns, tons of blood, flipped through it and just saw like general action shit going on, lots of just bloody gruesome mess, and I was like, this is obviously for me. This was made for me. This is my kind of thing. Immortal Hounds is a very straightforward, fun action spectacle romp. And the conceit of the story, which is, again, this is totally just made for me, is that it takes place in a world where everyone is immortal. But the way that immortality works is that if you die, you come back like healed. So in this world, in the very first pages, we're introduced to the concept that like a character gets sick with a cold. And so rather than waiting out the cold, she will just have someone shoot her in the head, killing her, and then she'll come back fully well again, like in her in the best natural state that your body could be in. So people are constantly killing themselves as a way of healing themselves, but there's a disease going around called RDS, which is that if you get this disease, you gain the ability to die. And the way that this disease spreads is through falling in love. It's not entirely clear what that means at first, and it's kind of implied that it's a sexually transmitted disease, though it becomes apparent that it's more of like a literally if you fall in love, then you'll die or something. I don't know. It's still pretty vague. This manga likes to keep a lot of things vague, seemingly as the author figures out what he wants to do with those things. But it can be interesting once those things come to light. So the story is just it's pretty batshit insane, because the policy in this world is if someone has RDS, kill them immediately. And it's pretty easy to figure out because if you shoot someone and they end up dead, well, they were a danger to society, they needed to die. If they come back to life, well, no harm done. So their policy is basically just, if you suspect someone of having it, shoot them immediately, ask questions later. So the police in this story are going around trying to murder anyone who has RDS. Whereas there's this organization, which the main girls, as depicted on the cover, well, depicted on this cover, this guy is the chief detective guy, but the girls work for an organization that's trying to protect people with RDS to get them into, just get them out of the fray of society and put them up somewhere. It's still kind of mysterious what the nature of that organization is. So it's mostly a, police, like a cops versus bad guys action spectacle romp, but the action is pretty intense because of the fact that you can freely have characters just, tearing each other to shreds with bullet fire and then coming back to life. So it's pretty lighthearted. Like, it's an action piece. It's not like it's a comedy or anything. It has funny moments, but it's not dark, in spite of how insanely violent it is. It's all sort of tongue-in-cheek and fun, and, characters get torn to shreds on a regular basis just to come back to life. So, yeah, it's a really fun read, and the art style really reminds me a lot of Gunslinger Girl. Like, I would not be at all surprised if the author of this was really influenced by Gunslinger Girl, because all the characters have this sort of blocky look to them, where it's sort of like an odd mix of trying to be somewhat realistic, but also somewhat like anime and cutesy, but it loans itself really well. Like, these sort of almost geometric designs make it really easy to put them into action scenarios and to draw them from lots of different perspectives. And I think that's why they might have favored this kind of art style, or, it's just how the person draws. But it's very similar to the way that Gunslinger Girl looks. But our two main girls are these sort of gothy, dark circles under the eyes, which I'm all about, girls who go around, and they wear these they have these little slips of paper next to their face that for whatever reason emits a light that makes their face impossible to see. So basically, we've got a almost Lupin the Third-esque situation here, where this girl's going around saving RDS people, and this guy's trying to stop her, and it's just about their run-ins, and, like, you know, them, like, trying to out-tactics each other, out-maneuver one another, and, like, and have all these plans. And by the end of this volume, the girl, who just happens to be undercover working for the police organization, is given the task of trying to fall in love with this guy so that she can give him RDS. But both of them are completely void of personality people who, like, just are duty driven and they just want to get their job done. So it's interesting to see the sort of the glacial romance between the two of them, where the girl is just desperately trying to make him fall in love with her, but she has no, like, she approaches this with a robot's understanding of love, whereas he approaches it with a no interest whatsoever and just kind of going along with it out of curiosity to try to get information kind of stance. So they have a weird kind of hilarious romance that emerges, especially in volume 2. But mostly this is just about action spectacle. And, like, at first I thought that this story, the concept makes no fucking sense, because why would they have guns in a world where everyone's immortal, and, like, why would things have played out this way? But as the story goes on, that kind of becomes the point and the central mystery. Like, basically, it's starting to suggest as it goes along that the whole immortal society thing is actually not normal and seems to be some kind of controlled experiment, like an almost dystopia kind of thing, where the people with RDS seem to be existing in the real world outside of this crazy weird world where people are immortal, and the people inside that world don't really know what's going on. So there's a lot of, like, mystery hanging in the background here that's kind of interesting and does start to help justify the absolutely batshit insane narrative. Like, Volume 1, I really thought, this is just popcorn. It knows how stupid it is. It's not trying to be anything deeper. And Volume 2, I mean, it's still not deep in, like, a thematic way or anything like that, but the story starts to get a little more interesting and to suggest that there's more going on. Now, I will say, this thing's fairly slow-paced. It hasn't made much progress in the greater overall narrative in these 2 volumes. It's mostly been, like, a background mystery kind of thing, while it sets up these kind of funny characters and scenarios. It's mostly about action and cool shit happening. There's a part in here where there's, like, a really extensive like chase/train sequence where the girl, I believe in this page, yeah, she is, like, surfing on a machine gun while grappled onto a tank. Like, it's got that kind of shit. You know, it's just, like, crazy batshit insane action sequences, and again, over-the-top violence, which is really entertaining because of the fact that it's not dark. This thing never gets... There's never a moment where you feel, like, really bad, other than maybe the very first chapter, like where there's actually a character who legitimately dies in kind of a sad way, but most of it's like this. Like, she has these whip pieces on her uniform thing that can just, like, tear people to shreds, but it doesn't matter because they can come right back as soon as they get shot. And oftentimes their strategy for dealing with their enemies is to not kill them. It's to, like, cut off all their limbs and leave them there so that, like, they have to take the time to bleed out before they can die and get right back up and fight. Because if you just shoot somebody in the head, they're just going to come back and fight you a second later. So it does some interesting tactical stuff with the death mechanic that's really entertaining because of, you know, what it is. So if you are someone who's like me, who you really love lighthearted action stories and you really love violence and gore, but you don't like when it's dark, if you're a fan of stuff like the violence in Bakano or something like that, or Gunslinger Girl again, which is darker than this, but it's a similar kind of tone. This one's a little bit more silly, and it doesn't take itself as seriously and doesn't have as much thematic weight to it, but it's still pretty entertaining. I enjoy it. I'll probably keep buying it. It's definitely popcorn entertainment, but I've been having a good time, so I'll probably keep reading it as long as the volumes keep hitting the shelves. By the way, I keep forgetting to clarify this in every one of these videos. I almost didn't do it again. I turned off the clip, but the reason, like, I want to make it clear that this series has been, like, manga that I buy and then read and then talk about on this show. Like, it's all stuff I just read. I'm just clarifying that because I guess I said in the first episode that these videos were all out of date, that I was talking about out of date manga, and some people seem to take that to mean I meant like older stuff. These are all new releases in the US. It's just that they are stuff that's already, a lot of it's already been translated online, or you could easily read past volume 1. Whereas I'm like buying volume 1 at the store because it's the only one that's there, reading it and commenting on just that, whereas you could go online and probably read these entire stories and be way ahead of me. That's what I mean by out of date, and the fact that I'm recording these like months in advance at this point. But like, yeah, just wanted to clarify that. Everything that's on the show is something I've just read. So if I start covering older stuff, it'll be because I've gone back and read them, or there's some stuff in this collection that I just haven't gotten to yet. So, yeah, I don't know why I found that important to clarify, but I did, so there you go. And see you on the next episode.